Hello and welcome to Founders Amplified, where we spotlight underrepresented founders who are driving innovation and impact across various industries and sectors across the globe. I'm your host, Narayan Kulkarni, and I'm excited to be here with you today. Today's guest is Luis González. Luis González is a Latin American entrepreneur who is passionate about using technology to transform agriculture. Growing up close to the countryside in Colombia, he witnessed firsthand the challenges farmers face and chose to dedicate his career to creating solutions that empower both small and large producers. He is currently the co-founder and CEO of TecDe, which uses AI to automate weighing of raw materials in the logistics processes of agricultural industries such as coffee and sugarcane. His mission is to drive innovation, efficiency, and growth in the agro industry, with a special focus on generating impact across Latin America. So, now that you know a little bit about Luis, let's dive in to the conversation. Welcome to Founders Amplified, Luis. Great to have you with us today. How are you doing?
Super fine, Ariane. Thanks for inviting me.
Amazing. Glad to hear you're doing great, and thank you for being here again. So to kick things off, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey. So could you tell me about what led you to become a founder, and if there were any particular experiences or moments that really sparked that decision?
Okay, so to be honest, when I was young, I was pretty frustrated with the economic development of my country. And I used to think like, why can't we create, well, I'm from Colombia, so why can't we create some technology? Why is it so difficult for us to create value? From that frustration, a choice came. So I have two options. Like I could leave my country and move to a place where that kind of feeling will not happen to me ever again, or stay and make something about it. So obviously, I decided to do the second, and that's because even when with all these problems, with so low economic development, we are a lot of lacks in technology. This is my home. I feel like home. So I miss the people. I miss the mountains. I miss my place, and I know I can do something here that will accelerate the economic development of my country and my region.
Wow, thanks for sharing. It's amazing to hear that you are in Colombia developing TecDe and doing work that then has both implications for Colombia, but also Latin America more broadly. And I wanted to dive a little bit more into that. So TecDe, I think, is interesting because, of course, you use AI, you have like that, but also you sit at the intersection of logistics, but also specifically helping the agricultural industry. So could you tell me a little bit more about what's innovative and creative about what TecDe is doing?
So basically, what we do is like we use pictures of the crops in in the agricultural sector to make predictions. So we use computer vision and AI to use those kind of pictures and get some data out of it. With this data, what we do is we predict like the productivity of that crop. So we understand even better that some farmers than some producers what it's going to be like the financial output they're going to have in the 12 months from now. So that said, we solve a main issue in the agriculture. It's like how it's going to be your cash flow. What can you expect in 12 months from now? Because you only get paid in 12 months. So we solve that question. And by doing that, in and amplifying that, by making it very scalable and very broad into all kind of crops, we are able to predict not only the productivity, but the offer we have like a country.
I see. Wow, that's really cool to hear. And I'm a little bit curious about to dive deeper into that, but also to the question we talked a little bit about your journey. So, I mean, you, as you said, you're from Colombia, you're building in Colombia. What aspects of, say, being Colombia or other parts of your identity or your story do you feel give you a unique angle that allows you to be a very special or unique person in solving the tech, what you're doing with TecDe relative to, say, others who might be building in this space. So what makes you and your identity and your story unique in the context of TecDe and solving the problem you're solving?
I think like one of the things that really marked me when I was young is like I was born into a family with significant differences in economic status. So my cousins didn't have enough money to survive all the time. But in my family, I was pretty lucky to have my dad like being able to get a good job and being in the in the corporate side and being able to grow as professional. So what happened to me is like I understood pretty early that why it's like to have nothing, and at the same time, why it's what it means to be wealthy in Latin America, and what kind of it happens. Like I feel it happens around all of Latin America. Is like there's no such place like where rich people and poor people share the same spaces. So that gives you like you're in a bubble. Like you cannot think outside of that bubble, outside of that box, and you cannot make a global impact and understand the problems not only in one sector of the country, but in all of this other sectors of the country, in all of the economic force. Why can't we develop is like I will say it's like part of a culture that we haven't developed yet. So one part of that is like understanding that's a problem really helped me to create or like a mental state, like a mindset that will enable me to make some impact within some sector, like it's pretty traditional, like the agriculture.
I see. Wow, I appreciate hearing how, in addition to being from Colombia, but also seeing differences in socioeconomic status, that gives you, it sounds like a richness of perspective, which then
Yeah.
enables you to better solve the problem that you're solving. I appreciate hearing that. Now, to something that you mentioned earlier about, I heard you were talking about the use of computer vision, AI, analytics, and data to like provide analytics that support farmers and help in their decision making. Now, there are lots of different AI solutions out there. There are definitely like lots of tools that are being used in like agri-tech and such solutions. And so I'm curious, what about what you're doing at Tekte is like how are you rethinking or thinking about the problem differently? Are you maybe using like different approaches, different types of data? Can you share a little bit more about that aspect of what makes you different among a very diverse, broad, growing, already innovative industry and set of
You know,
industries?
it's kind of funny because there's a lot of companies that actually use, well, there's a lot of the data and the technology we use and apply them into a lot of crops around the world. But what we do is like we understood in our market, especially in Latin America, where we produce around 60% of all the food produced in the world is from here. We understood like how can we make something that is scalable enough so we can have the biggest impact we can. So what we do is we use actually WhatsApp. WhatsApp is our main channel that allows this technology to be used by anyone in the field. And that was kind of like an aha moment when we understood that, because a lot of the people in the rural side of the country, they do not have access or they don't know how to manage an app, how to use it actually. So what we understood is they don't know how to do that, but they don't actually know how to, for example, write a message, an SMS. They can't, or they won't do it. So we integrated this through WhatsApp because it allows us to use voice messages and I use only images, so we can cross around that friction that happens with a lot of the technology that we have developed in the agri-tech sector that hasn't enabled that don't enable them to make it scalable. We make it scalable to WhatsApp. That's the main difference we use in here because we understood this market. All Latin America use WhatsApp as the main way to communicate with each other. Everyone. It doesn't matter if you have 50 years old or you are a young boy with 15 years old. You know how to do it. And that's the reason.
Wow, it's amazing to hear that you use like a messaging technology like WhatsApp to then facilitate that communication and make it, of course, accessible, but also having like the text data, the video data, the other data that then you can use to enable your solution. That's really cool. And one thing which you shared, and this is kind of the context for my next question, which I know a little bit about, but our audience may not, is 60%, 60% of food produced in the world comes from Latin America. And so
16,
the implication,
16%,
well, sorry,
16%.
16%,
One six,
which is
yeah.
a really big amount. That's and of course many diverse crops. And so with what you're doing, what are some of the impacts that you are seeing now, and also considering that share of agricultural production, and also in the broader future, what are some other impacts that you see if that continues to scale and have its vision grow in how you believe it will?
Like we started like in this business with this kind of technology, not only because to make a big impact in the world, in our region, but to really tackle a problem that is like it's pretty frustrating for me. In the world, each minute we produce 11,000 tons of food, and each minute we lost 2,000 tons of that food. What we do and our impact is to reduce that amount. Especially in Latin America, in non-developed countries, all that food is lost in the harvest and the post-harvest processes stages of the production chain. So what we do and our impact from here and even in the future, within 5 years, for example, is to at least reduce that food waste by 10% before the distribution phase. And not only that, but also increasing the profits of our clients by at least 15%. That amount is enough to give some pulse to this economic growth that we are looking for.
I see. So it's interesting to hear that there's the reduction of waste in the post distribution phase. Did I hear that correctly? Um,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then also profit increased for your customers.
yeah, yeah. We have to do both. We will look into the both to avoid that
Gotcha.
food waste.
Can you tell me more about why this solution is particularly impactful or valuable in Latin America in general, but also in Colombia more specifically?
Like what we do, for example, in Colombia, we work with a lot of, well, everybody in the States and in all parts know the coffee from Colombia. So we have one of the best coffees in the world. Especially in Colombia, what we do is we work with the National Federation for Coffee in Colombia, and they work with 1 million small producers of coffee. So what we do with them is help them to make the most impactful way, in the most scalable way, to increment the profitability of those small producers. We help them to give them the technology to this federation. What we do with them is like one of two things that we are looking to do. We are working with small producers through federations, through this kind of this kind of corporational institutions of national institutions, but actually we are working with big producers and exporters. So we're working with the heavy industry here. Actually, that is not so heavy, it's not so big, but we are looking to work with them to make from Colombia and especially our region in Antioquia one of the main producers of, for example, avocado, one of the main producers of banana, that we already have some impact in the market, and we are looking to get like a lot of the market share in the States. But we're looking to work with them to improve the quality, the quantity, and the productivity of all of the crops.
I see. So I appreciate the example of coffee in particular, but can you just give a little bit more examples of raw materials or crops that you do weight and measure through Tech Day?
We actually work right now with some crops, like we work with sugarcane in the sugarcane sector, in the coffee sector, in the avocado sector, flowers for exportation, and banana. In those crops, what we do is like each crop is pretty different. Actually, we have a lot of AI models. If each crop, it means that we have to develop a new AI model because it has a lot of difference, not only in the images, but actually in the agronomics, like science behind it. And what we do with them is like they use our software to WhatsApp. Everyone uses our software to WhatsApp, and in some ways we can help them to reduce food waste in some stages. For example, in sugarcane, we help them to reduce food loss, actually sucrose loss, in the post-harvest stage. So we analyze like videos of the harvesting process, and we give them insights about you are losing this more sucrose per minute because you have a lot of back cuts of the sugarcane. With that in mind, we can approximate why we can be doing like insights that help them to avoid losing that sucrose. For example, in the sugarcane sector, in the coffee sector, we help them to give traceability to all the crops with these pictures, and with these pictures, we allow them to know if their crops is sick, if has like one of the common six in here, if you have enough like flowers, that flowers indicate where it's going to have being able to harvest the crop, the complete crop, and we know how many like grains they have in each tree, in each coffee tree. So we are able with that with those index to make some predictions about it. And actually, we are pretty good at it. Like between 85 and 92% are the precision of our prediction right now.
85 to 92%. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Great to hear. And okay, that it's again really awesome to hear that like you what you're doing with they can apply to multiple different types of crops. But my next question kind of goes a little bit deeper into something you mentioned, which was the fact that you have to customize, it sounds like, the AI model based on different crops. So could you just give for our audience a little bit of the flavor of or using sugarcane as an example because you talked about it. What are some of like the types of data that you might collect or unique things that you would be examining that would be really useful for a farmer and a customer that would be
For
using
example, in
Pixel?
sugarcane, what we analyze is like we have a model that uses videos to analyze how much weight per second is harvested. So you have like a big machine that actually is the harvesting machine that they use, and we put a camera in there. So we're able with that camera and with the video to analyze the weight without actually measuring the weight. We like have an AI model in place. The other thing we analyze is like the strange material that comes into the harvesting process. So like leaves, so like rocks, so like mud. If you have a lot of that strange material, that means into the fabric, you are going to you're going to have a lot of problems with the color of the sugar, especially, and the quality of it. And the third thing we do is we analyze the cut quality of the sugar cane. If you have like a pretty sharp cut, you lose less sucrose than if you do with a pretty rough cut. That's what the difference. And we are able to make like a prediction, like how much are you going to lose for sucrose within 10 hours or 8 hours from now. So you have like a crop in a place, and you will start to lose a lot of sucrose. You have to take it fast enough or faster to the factory to try to process the sugar from the sugar cane.
I see. Very cool. I appreciate that greater detail into the types of data that you collect and how the ways in which they're used. And I'm also curious, again, as like you've shared, as I know many of our audience knows, like the agriculture sector is large, especially in places like Latin America, Colombia. There are many different sizes of farmers
Yeah.
and ways that you can reach out to them. But you did give the example of like using WhatsApp as a communication tool. But I'm curious, do you for level setting for helping our audience understand? Can you tell us more about which types of farmers you like size of farmers or size of plots you work with? How in more detail you go to market with them and like engage them with your solution?
Actually, we started like working this technology to develop this technology with big companies in the agriculture sector. So like companies that have more than 100 hectares of crops, 1,000 hectares of crops. And from that on, we start to work actually with foundations like what they do is they hire us to give these two kind of tools to their farmers, like the National Federation of Coffee for Colombia. They hire us, and the farmer doesn't pay anything, but we give them the tool. And that way, we're able to work with small farmers, even if our technology and to the day is still a little bit a little bit too expensive for the small farmers, for people that have like under 10 or under 50 hectares of crops.
I see. Interesting that you work both with, it sounds like larger you started with larger farmers and larger groups, but also with foundations. I found that
Yeah.
interesting. The other thing I'm interested in is, of course, you talked about previously in this episode, you're based in Colombia. That's where you're from. So where you've been doing a lot of building. But uh, Latin America is a very complex region with a lot of different countries, nuances, like in addition to, of course, a very wide range of different like types of land, etc. So I'm curious, do you have a presence? Can you tell for our audience in other parts of Latin America, or plans or a vision to expand into other parts of Latin America? And if so, how do you or have you engaged with such groups? And if applicable, maybe potentially outside of Latin America.
Actually, we right now we don't have presence outside Colombia, but we are right now like making some contracts with companies in Brazil. Brazil is like the market where everything happens. Like they are the main sugar producer in the world. They are the main coffee producer in the world. They are the main uh, orange juice producer in the world. So that kind of things make them like the big market for us. And we are already being there. Like I was in the Web Summit last month and being able to pitch in there, to being able to connect with a lot of people and with a lot of companies in there to understand how can we apply this kind of technology there. Actually, it's the same problem, but different scale. In there, you will have like in here, I have like 13 13 ICPs that work with sugarcane. In there, there's like 400 of them. It's pretty big.
Wow.
It's a pretty big difference.
I see. I appreciate knowing that. And so, in going to market or expanding to Brazil, for example, or in
Yeah.
other parts of Latin America, where, of course, there might be, again, differences in like types of crops, like soil, like cultural nuances. One example, of course, being like Colombia being like a like Hispanic country, Brazil being a Lusophone country. And as you've talked about, also the scale of market being different. How do you like how does Tecte how do you market or get Tecte to be used across like such broad like geographies, diversities of both land as well as like ways of doing business as well as culture and other types of diversity?
Actually, it's kind of difficult. It's kind of a problem, like because you need some time, and the time is required because you need to learn the culture of the country. You need to sell in there. You need to understand the language. If you only speak Portuguese in Brazil, I will let you know that you won't say a thing. And even if you tell English, if you speak English, it's not enough. A lot of people in Brazil doesn't speak English neither. Even the big CTOs, the big chiefs of the big corps doesn't speak English. So it is kind of difficult. But what we do to really solve the problem is like we are in the market with some allies. There's some big allies in there like Cubo, like the Cubo Itaú is one of the biggest like soft landing programs that help you to connect fast enough with corps, with foundations, with all your ICP clients that will allow you to make the sales effort a little bit more frictionless. But the language is one of the main friction you will have. Like it's mandatory to learn to speak Portuguese. Super mandatory.
I see. I appreciate your perspective on the challenges, but also the ways in which you go into different markets. With you shared one example being entering the Brazilian market. So it sounds like, and like it's really cool to hear both the journey that you've been on as well as where you're going. And it sounds like there's been a lot to get to this point. And I'm curious in the journey you've taken so far with Dicte, what were some of the biggest like learning things you learned which you wish you had known prior to starting?
Actually, that's kind of a lot of things. Like the first one I will say is like understanding the pulse of a team. Like what are those metrics that you need to measure each single week that define how your team is feeling, how your company is feeling, and how can you make something about it to make it rocket again. So that's like the main thing. Knowing there are things like I talk like a month ago with a CEO for another company that it has been CEO like 10, 15 years. And one of the main things he told me, like I asked him, what will you do if it were like 20 to 2008? Like, what will happen? What will you tell yourself 10 years ago? What would you do different? And one of the main things that he told me that actually marked me is like, you have to let go of shiny things, shiny stuff. Like, you have to focus on who is your real ICP, who is the people that you are going to add real value, and what is your real advantage in the market. What are you going to do be different to real give value to the market, and why is the market, the channel, the model, and the product a fit? That's like, well, one of the things I will have really likely to know like 2 years ago.
Fantastic. What is something about the agriculture sector that you learned in your journey that you wish you had known prior to starting?
It's pretty difficult to sell into a traditional sector. It's kind of difficult because a lot of people like a lot of people have been doing like this, has been in this sector like 20, 50 years. So they understand really well how their crop works, how they make money, how they can make it, but they don't measure anything. They just know it. They just know it. They just see their crop, understand a lot of things. What happens where they grow, where when they don't measure, they are not able to grow even further from being like a medium company to a big company, to pass that threshold where you are able to send or export $10 million in products, but how can you make it to 50 million? And they like this, they tend to stop it there. They like tend to stop the growth where they achieve like that kind of life that in here is like you have a big company actually for $3 million. This is like a big company in Colombia, but they tend to not like being urgent in the growth they want. So what I would like to know is like what kind of market I was getting in. It has been pretty difficult to get early adopters for this technology. It has been pretty difficult to sell, and the sales cycles are pretty long.
I see. Thanks for sharing. So, how can people find you and how can they support your work?
They can find us in our webpage through www.techde.ai, and they can support us like just following us and knowing what we do, applying to to the backends we have for job offers from then on, and just replying this message. We need food, and we need it fast because in 10 years, how are we going to feed to 10 billion people?
Thanks for sharing. Now it's time for our signature question. Could you please fill in the blank? I amplify.
I amplify the needs and the urgency to avoid the food waste worldwide.
Well said. Thanks so much for sharing that answer and also just for sharing your journey and insights with us, Luis. It was amazing to hear about you, your journey, and the innovative work that you're doing with Tecte, as well as the impact that that is going to be enabling in the world. And I just want to pause and celebrate you for being a creative, insightful, very visionary entrepreneur. I mean, I have spoken to like numerous different guests in the show. I've mentored actually a number of people in the climate tech space. And I think something that really stood out in this conversation, which I want to highlight is, so first of all, I really appreciate how when you shared, like you shared both in really great nuance and also with passion and very great clarity, the challenges that come with the agricultural sector, but also the optimism and the creativity that you're using with data. I think all of those in one conversation I found very refreshing and insightful. I also really appreciate, for me at least, I mean, I have lived in close proximity to Latin America. I've grown up around Latin American culture, but you taught me some really interesting things in this particular context. And I really appreciate your ability to educate and share things in both a informational, but also in a pragmatic way. So I really appreciate this about what you have shared and in this episode, and also what you stand for more broadly. So thank you, Luis. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Nari, and thank you for creating this space for us to be amplified. I really appreciate that and think your mission is pretty big and it's pretty necessary to give voice to all those people that are founders that are creating things where actually there's a lot of needs to be resolved. So I really, really, really thank you for that.
You're most welcome. Again, thank you so much for being here and for an amazing conversation. But for now, I wish you a wonderful rest of your day and best wishes on your journey ahead. Bye for now, Luis.
Bye-bye.
To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Founders Amplified. I hope you're feeling as inspired as I am. If you'd like to learn more about our guest and support them, check out the show notes for their details. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a rating, share it with someone you know, and follow us for more inspiring episodes like this one. If you're a founder who is driving innovation and impact in any industry or sector anywhere in the world and would like to be a guest, we'd love to hear from you. Check out the show notes for more information. And finally, remember that you, yes, you, have the power to amplify the voices around you. Whether you're a colleague, family member, friend, funder, mentor, or just another fellow human, your support matters. So I invite you to celebrate and uplift the underrepresented innovators in your life who are driving innovation and impact. Let's create a better future for everyone, together. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep amplifying.